Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thank you so much. And
Thank
I would also like to thank Dhamma Deepa International University and the Study Leaf Learning Solutions. And
Yes.
I would also like to thank all the participants, those who joined this particular workshop. That is going to be for the 3 days qualitative data analysis using ATLAS.ti. Now, coming to the day one, as you might have seen the flyer, we have day one. We're going to discuss about overview of qualitative research methods. So I'll be dealing with what is qualitative, what is quantitative, mixed methods, very briefly. And next one, we are going to talk about what is phenomenological research, grounded theory, case study, ethnography. I'm going to discuss the overview of each method as we have 2 hour sessions. I would like to explain the concept of each method. At the same time, with the help of some research study, we try to understand each study, how we can apply, when we can apply, what kind of data analysis one can do that. Okay. While covering the phenomenology, grounded theory, case study, ethnography, simultaneously, I'll be touching up what is sampling techniques, data collection methods, data analysis. Data analysis, I'll be touching upon a little bit with the help of the case studies, but we are going to have hands-on practice on the third day of the session. And we're also going to talk about what is the validity and reliability when it comes to qualitative research. So this is what is going to be there for today. Coming to the reading materials, I'll be sharing sample review papers, reading materials, including how one can use ATLAS.ti, how various scholars are publishing by using ATLAS.ti, what kind of papers they have published it. I'll be sharing everything in Google Drive. That link, I'll share it in our WhatsApp group by end of the day or maybe by tomorrow early morning. Okay. Along with the PPT, I'll be sharing that. Okay. Before starting the session, there are few ebooks I'll be sharing with you as well. And somebody interested, specific method wise, like phenomenology, grounded theory, you can also see some of the references list I have given to you all. I would also like to thank each scholar, each academician. I have referred to many of their works, their contributions. Now, coming to the overview of quantitative, qualitative mixing methods. As you all know that what is quantitative research is all about it. Quantitative research is basically whenever you're interested to look at the cause and effect relationship between a couple of variables. It can be cause and effect relationship. It may be association between the variables, or maybe relationship like positive correlation, negative correlations. Overall, whenever you want to quantify or whenever you want to measure up to what extent, right? So in that case, we are going to use quantitative research methods. In order to conduct the quantitative research methods, we have surveys, experimental research designs, structured observations. Means as a researcher, you can also use observation checklist as a part of quantitative research. If there are any further questions, maybe I'll take it. Right now, I'm just giving overview of it. Okay. Now, when it comes to conducting quantitative research, you are going to be very precise questions. Based on that, you are going to design the tool and you are going to go for pilot study and you'll check it. What is the validity and reliability of your research tool that you have designed it? We have different kind of validity and reliability tools. Once we get the confirmation that the tool that you have designed will go for conducting final studies all about it. Whereas when it comes to the qualitative research, whenever you want to understand the experiences of the people, or whenever you want to understand the culture of particular community, right? Whenever you want to understand the lived experiences of people suffering with some particular phenomena, right? Basically, you try to understand holistic understanding of particular phenomena, or you want to get context of particular phenomena. When you're talking about quantitative research, you're trying to look at relationship, associations, comparisons, cause and effect relationship. Whereas when it comes to qualitative research, you try to discover the knowledge, you try to develop the theory, try to develop the hypothesis. As a quantitative researcher, you are going to test the theory, you're going to test the hypothesis. Whereas when it comes to the qualitative research, you are going to develop the theory or develop the hypothesis or develop the propositions as an outcome of your research work. Right? Now, if you want to develop the theory or if you want to dig the knowledge, discover the knowledge, we have to conduct in-depth interviews, focus group discussions, maybe observation methods, right? So we have different kind of methods. We have it. I'm going to show you a couple of methods while discussing various case studies. Now, when it comes to the sampling techniques, you are purposefully choosing particular respondent because they are the persons can give you right information, more depth knowledge they can share with you, right? So we have different kind of analysis methods like thematic analysis, content analysis, narrative analysis, right? With if you are going with a phenomenological point of view, interpretivist phenomenological approach. If you are going with a grounded theory, constructivist phenomenological approach or interpretivist phenomenological approach, we have different kind of methods. Depends on the approach that you take. We have different kind of data analysis. But whenever you feel as a quantitative researcher, as a qualitative researcher, if you feel that your objectives you are not able to justify just by following one method of approach like quantitative or quantitative. So in that case, you're going to combine both quantitative and qualitative approaches in order to justify your research objectives. So we are going to use the combination of both quantitative and qualitative research works. Let me give a overview of what is qualitative research. When I mentioned whenever you want to explore, whenever you want to discover certain phenomena, we are going to conduct qualitative research work. As you can see here, there are two studies. One is more than just a punctuation mark, how boys and young men learn about menstruation. Generally, whether it is from the Indian context or from the Western context, you won't find much studies on menstruation. Even today, many of the scholars they don't discuss about menstruation. It depends on the family, it depends on the cultural practices they have it. They can't openly discuss what is menstruation. But what is happening to women in a month, 3 to 5 days? And we have 50% of the population belongs to women category. The women, those are living in rural areas or remote areas, she knows that her brother, her father is going to town. If I ask sanitary pads, they can buy and come. But she can't openly talk about it, right? So what is going to happen? They are going to practice unhygienic practices, which is going to have impact on their skin diseases, health related issues, which is directly going to have impact on high level of dropout rates in rural education. I mean, rural schools, rural high schools levels, right? Now, but who is talking about it? Nobody will conduct research. There is no much research. So you couldn't find much studies. If you feel that you are going to discover something new topic where you are finding a lot of gaps, in that case, you are going to come up with a qualitative research work, right? So in that case, we are going to have qualitative research where you are going to gather the data, you are going to look at similar patterns or contrast factors, and you are going to develop the theory out of the research work, right? Now, when you talk about the quality research methods, we have various methods. The point that I want to conclude here is that qualitative research is meant for understanding the rich descriptions. You want to understand the context as a whole. You want to discover theories. You want to develop the theories. You want to develop the propositions. Very briefly, this is all about what is qualitative research. But within the qualitative research, we have different methods. We have it like phenomenology, grounded theory, ethnography, narrative analysis. You can call it as a autoethnography and case study. We are going to discuss some of them. First one is phenomenological study. Whenever you want to understand the lived experiences of the people, we are going to use phenomenological study. This particular phenomenological method originating from the philosophy of phenomenology, especially it was developed by Professor Hegel, philosopher. And later on, so many sociologists started working on what is phenomenological research is all about it. Till 1960s, most of the research was dominated by the quantitative research scholars. But at the beginning of the early 1960s, scholars realized that the quantitative research is having a lot of limitations. We are always trying to talk about quantifying, measuring, but as a result, we are not able to discover the knowledge. We are not able to come up with proper output. So, phenomenological researchers started conducting various methods like to understand and describe the universal essence of phenomena through the lived experiences of individuals. It may be persons with disabilities, it may be the life of persons with who are suffering with breast cancer, it may be persons who are undergoing particular phenomena. I want to understand lived experiences. I want to understand their consciousness, like how they're experiencing that particular phenomena. It is about dwelling into how people perceive and make sense of their experiences. Means, if you are interacting with a particular respondent, you just want to understand how people are perceiving as a person with disability, as a person suffering with HIV/AIDS, and how they're making sense of their experiences. So you're going to contribute knowledge based on their experiences, based on their interactions they have with the surrounding places, rather than relying on pre-existing theories or assumptions. Means, as a researcher, you're least concerned about existing theories. You're trying to overcome your bias, your prior assumptions, whatever knowledge that you have it. You're not going to allow that particular prior knowledge, pre-existing theories at the time of data collection as well as at the time of data analysis. Because you are open to learn new findings, you are open to learn new things, how it is happening, what is happening from the research field settings. There are two types of phenomenological studies. One is descriptive, second one is interpretive phenomenology. When I talk about descriptive or interpretive phenomenology, as a descriptive phenomenology, as a researcher, you are going to keep bracketing. Means, as a researcher, you are going to holding your prior assumptions, what are the knowledge that you have it. You are not going to allow your knowledge, your understanding the concept at the time of data collection or at the time of data analysis. Intuiting means you are open to learn new knowledge based on whatever is happening in the field. And once we complete your data collection, you are going to analyze the data and you are going to describe what you observed, what you learned from the research work. But when it comes to the interpretive analysis, they are going to use the approach called hermeneutic. Means, instead of simply relying on what they observed in the field, unlike descriptive phenomenologists, they are not going to simply describe what they observed in the field. In addition to what they observe in the field, they are going to co-create the knowledge. Means, I'm collecting data from one respondent about suffering as he or she is suffering with HIV/AIDS. I'm also going to understand what he or she is sharing their experiences. I'll try to interpret based on my analytical skills. I'll also use the existing materials, existing studies, existing reports. I co-create the knowledge. Means, instead of only relying on my respondent, I'll try to understand what he or she said it. I'll come out my own interpretation part. So we are going to co-create the knowledge as a part of interpretive phenomenology. And as an interpretive phenomenologist, you are going to reject the concept of bracketing. Means, it is not 100% possible to overcome the bias as a qualitative researchers. I can say that it is not easy to overcome, or I can say that you have some kind of knowledge, prior assumptions. You will follow certain validity, reliability strategies to overcome your bias, but 100%, you may not say that I don't have any kind of prior assumption, some kind of bias as an interpretive phenomenologist. So that is one concept of interpretive phenomenology. In addition to interpret your own interpretation, you're also going to use the existing materials, existing studies in order to co-create the knowledge. So these are the main difference between what is descriptive, what is interpretive phenomenology. Let me conclude with one line. Descriptive phenomenologists depends on what they are observing, what they are sensing it in the field. Accordingly, they are going to write the report. They make the phenomenological study. Whereas when it comes to interpretive phenomenologist, in addition to collecting the data from the participants, it- they'll understand what kind of findings they got it. They'll start interpreting the findings based on their analytical understanding of the concept. In order to understand the concept, they'll also look at the existing research work. They'll also discuss with various experts, various peer group members. Accordingly, they'll come the final report of their phenomenological research work. Okay. Now, up to this part, it is fine. But what about the data interpretation part, data analysis part? What I'll do, I'll just come with small, it's not a small case study, it is a PhD research work. I'll be sharing this particular dissertation, this particular thesis with you all. If your time permits, please go through that. It is a PhD thesis. Title of the thesis is A Phenomenological Study of the Lived Experiences of Parents of Young Children with Autism Receiving Special Education Services. Means, as a researcher, I just want to understand the experiences of the people who are having children with autism. Point number one. And second point is that there are so many parents who are having children with autism. But I want to collect the data from the parents who are having children with autism. At the same time, those who are receiving special education services. I hope it is clear. Uh, as a parent, uh, I'm just putting an example. It is very horrible to imagine that as a parent, we have a child with a disability, right? You can't imagine, you can't think of having a child with a disability. Don't take it other way. Why I'm saying that we can't imagine that? We can't see because, right? Now, I just want to know how they are suffering, how they are coping with that particular phenomena in order to provide best services for their children's, in order to provide best exposure to their children's. Because many of the schools, colleges, they don't admit children's into schools. So you have to look for special education services. So that is a very tedious process for the parents, right? So in that case, I just want to understand having a child with autism is one problem. In order to get the services, what kind of problem that you're facing on it? The researcher, uh, when it comes to the sampling, data collection, and data analysis, I suggest you all please go through this particular document. This particular PhD thesis chapter is around 30, 35 pages. I'm sure many of you might be knowing it. Uh, how PhD research methodology chapter will write it. It is a detailed explanation, and you'll understand what is phenomenological studies all about it if you read this particular dissertation, this particular thesis point. Okay. Now the question is, the researcher tried to collect the data from the parents who are having children with autism. When you talk about data collection methods, when you talk about sampling methods, let me explain how it was done. It the researcher was not able to find the parents with the children with autism. Okay, so the researcher approached some of the NGOs, and that particular NGO promised that give me the entire research objectives, your research tool, and what kind of research ethics that you are going to follow. I'll share with my beneficiaries. The beneficiaries is nothing but the parents who are having children with autism. Okay, so this particular NGO posted this particular research tool on their Facebook page. On their Facebook page. As soon as they posted on their Facebook page, one of the parents responded that I'm ready to participate in your research as a part of your data collection. Further, this particular parent, the person who responded for the first time, she shared that particular tool in her social network. As a result, the researcher got 7 references. The researcher got 7 references. Now, when it comes to the sampling part, the researcher used purposive sampling. The researcher used purposive sampling. Though it was shared in social media, people started contacting her. She conducted first time telephonic interview, saying that, do you have children with autism? Yes. And do you have children with autism? And do you have any persons with disabilities in your family? Means the researcher wanted to collect the data from the parent who are having children with autism, only one person. You can also see that there are some families, maybe as a father, as a mother, maybe as a grandparents, they might be having persons with disabilities. But the researcher don't want to collect the data from the people. Those are having more than one person with a disability in their family. Because if somebody is having already a person with a disability, they are already undergoing that particular phenomena. So the lived experiences, you may not get that same kind of essence, right? So the researcher wanted to have, as a parent, they should have only one child in the family with a disability. Second point, are you ready to share your photographs of your children's, around 10 photographs? If yes, you are included. Are you comfortable in English? Because the researcher is not coming from the Dutch language. And she don't, for example, right now, Vijay madam said that I'm going to send you the entire summary. Right now, we have so many AI tools. Easily one can transcribe the data from one language to another language. Even I'm going to show you as a part of AI, how one can transcribe the data, audios, videos, right? Now, the researcher don't want to miss the essence of even single word. Means if you start transcribing from one language to another language, what is going to happen? There is a possibility, there is a high possibility that some of the words, if you convert from one language to another language, the essence you may lose it. So the researcher don't want to miss even that kind of essence as well, as you're talking about lived experiences point of view. So these are the some of the inclusion exclusion criteria the researcher kept as a part of it. One more criteria was that your child must be less than 5 years old. Your child must be less than 5 years old. So after conducting this telephonic interview, telephonic screening, out of seven respondents, she was able to finalize four people because one of the respondents mentioned that I'm not ready to share photographs of my children. Obviously, because they think, though the researcher promised, I'm going to follow all the ethical issues. I'm not going to disclose. I'm not going to share any of the photographs. Still, parents, as a parent, generally, you don't want to talk about your child with the outside society. So, out of seven people, four people agreed to take part in this session. After the telephonic interview, the researcher conducted next one is photo elicitation method, one of the unique method as a part of qualitative data analysis. The main objective of photo elicitation method was build the rapport between the parents and researcher. As a researcher, my purpose is collect the data, contribute knowledge. It may be my PhD degree, it may be my I'm going to get the doctorate. But as a parent, what is there to them? What is the plus for them, right? And moreover, you're talking about children's problems. Moreover, you're talking about persons with disabilities problems. So it is not easy as a qualitative researchers to get in-depth data, to get the rich data, until unless if you're not able to, unless if you're not able to bridge the gap, if you're not able to build the rapport, it is not easy. So the researcher used photo elicitation as a method to build the rapport between the researcher and parents. For this particular second phase of the data collection, the researcher visited every house and asked all the parents to share, keep their photographs on the table, and they have placed all the 10 photographs with the children's. Then the researcher started asking what was the context of this particular photograph, who are the other children in the particular photograph, what happened when you visited with the intervention services or special education services, because as a part of 10 photographs, different contexts were there. She's not started asking directly based on her research questions. She started what this particular photograph is all about it, what is the context is all about it, how we are able to get the services, how you are able to child getting education, what kind of impact is having on the children's education, what kind of social life there. So as a parent, they were able to open, they're able to discuss problems without uh, feeling very bad about their children's, without feeling very bad about their own experiences. Now, as a researcher, you got good amount of data. So the researcher went back again. She has taken note of everything and she's tried to connect the story. And the second time, third time, she said that I want to conduct in-depth interviews. Based on the previous stage, that is still a photo elicitation method, she started referring to previous stage. In our last time, you are referring to this particular context with reference to this particular service. Can you elaborate it a little bit further? What was the context is all about it? How you are able to get it? So she started using the previous stage of data collection to probe the respondent to go in deeper about the research context point of view, right? So I hope you're able to understand the researcher how he started working on it. After conducting in-depth interviews with all the four respondents, she completed her data analysis part. She completed her report, and she called again saying that this time I would like to meet each one of you as a team because I have completed my research work. I just want to validate. I just want to cross-verify my research findings. Am I understood correctly? Are there any gaps? I just want to fill certain gaps here. I just want to report my findings with you all. If there are any miscommunications or misunderstanding about the findings, I just want to correct it myself. So, are you willing to participate? All four of them participated in a group and they're able to discuss all the findings. And she was able to correct certain things, and she was able to fill the gap, right? So I hope you're able to understand what kind of sampling technique they have used it, what kind of data collection methods they have used as a part of qualitative research methods. Now, when it comes to the data analysis part, uh, let me tell you one point here. I'm not here to justify the entire data analysis step by step because we have less time. I'm going to give the overview of it. Same thing we are going to repeat with the help of the data analysis on third day. Again, it is going to be like with the help of the software, you're going to do that. Okay. Now, when it comes to the phenomenological analysis as a part of descriptive phenomenology, you're going to read the description, like what are the data that you collected. For example, here, look at here. Imagine that this is your interview transcript. Imagine that this is your interview transcript. First and foremost thing is that whether it's a thematic analysis, whether it's a content analysis, name it any type of analysis, irrespective of the method that you adopted. First and foremost thing is we need to understand the data that you collected. The data that you collected. Once you start familiarizing yourself with the data that you collected, you start underlying some important findings, significant findings. Once you start identifying or familiarizing yourself with the data, you start looking for some kind of signal. For example, as here, you can see that I identified is something related to feelings. This particular point. So you start underlying some significant findings as a part of your research work. Means you are going to generate the codes. Now the question is, what is meant by code? A code is often a short word or phrase that symbolically assigns a summative, silent essence, capturing. For example, here, if you look at the example here, he cares about me. He has never told me, but he does. After reading this particular statement, based on my understanding, based on my interpretation, as you all know that qualitative research is something based on subjectivity. It is completely my own interpretation, my own understanding. I am coming with the understanding that I can give the coding as sense of self-worth. For this particular line, or maybe for this particular quotation, or for this particular paragraph, I'm thinking that this can be considered or given code as sense of self-worth. Right. Second one, he's always been there for me, even when my parents were not. He is one of the few things that I hold as a constant in my life. Now, based on my understanding, of course, it's not mine. This is Professor Saldana, as many of you might be knowing about it, a very renowned scholar in the area of qualitative research work. You can refer to this particular Hope manual if you wanted to explore more into that. I'll also share his ebook. Okay. Now, here, for this particular two lines, we are giving code as a stability. Like that, we start reading the entire interview transcript. We discuss 2 points here. Point number one, reading the descriptions, like reading the interview transcript, whatever data that you collected, you are going to read it. Once you start reading, once you start familiarizing yourself, you start extracting certain statements. Once you feel that, okay, these are some of the significant findings or statements, you start giving quotes, you start generating some meanings or formatting quotes. Once you generate quotes like this is the code. So these are some of the codes we have it. Once you generate the codes, again you start reading, again reading all the codes, and you start connecting this particular code to particular category. Once you finalize your categories, you will start connecting again to particular theme. So we are going to have hands-on practice this particular step, because irrespective of whether it's phenomenological research, whether it's grounded theory, though we have different terminologies, but the process is the same. Okay. So we are going to do it on third day with the help of the software. Okay. Right now, just have some kind of steps, just understanding about what are the steps one can do that part. Okay. So you're going to develop the clusters, themes, and we are going to come up with the findings. As I mentioned it, as a part of phenomenological study, you are going to validate your findings. As a part of descriptive research, descriptive phenomenological approach, you are going to validate your findings. Then you are going to finalize your results. So this is all about descriptive phenomenological approach. Similarly, we also have interpretive phenomenological approach. Like you are going to understand the entire data that are collected it. We are going to identify the themes, and you start interpreting the relationships, meanings. You start connecting with the existing literature. You'll also look at it external factors like social factors, advancement of technology, cultural factors, social situation factors, as you're going to interpret your findings. Instead of simply relying on what respondents said, you are going to incorporate the external factors. It may be legal aspect, it may be cultural aspect, it may be historical aspect, and you start uh, connecting these particular findings with the historical point of view later on. Existing research studies, sorry, existing research studies point of view, you're going to come up with your research findings. Okay, this is all about phenomenological study. If you all agree, shall we go for question answers or shall I cover one more method? Is it clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Shall we go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. If there is any problem in voice, if there is any issues, please let me know. Okay. Yeah. Coming to the next part, grounded theory. Grounded theory is another important qualitative research method when it comes to developing the theory. At the beginning of the session, I clearly mentioned that as a qualitative researcher, one of your objective of conducting qualitative research is develop the theory or develop the propositions or hypothesis. But if you look at 90% of the thesis or research papers, those are using qualitative research. You won't be able to see all the people developing the theory. It requires a lot of rigorous data analysis, rigorous data collection. But if you look at studies conducted by using grounded theory, 99.9%, because grounded theory means as outcome of your research is you are developing a theory, you are developing some propositions as an outcome of your research work. Until unless you're not very rigorous into the research, or if you're not able to understand exactly how to develop the theories, they don't choose what is grounded theory is all about it. But it is one of the best approach when it comes to developing the theory or when it comes to conducting grounded theory as a part of the research work. Now, what is grounded theory? Grounded theory is a qualitative research method used to develop an in-depth understanding of a phenomena by generating theory that is grounded in the data collected. Whatever the data that you're going to collect, from that particular data, you're going to generate the theory. Means you're not going to look at existing research, existing theories. The point is that you're starting grounded theory because you couldn't find much studies or much theories in a particular domain, in a particular phenomena. So you want to develop the theory. That particular theory must be come from the data that is grounded. It is an inductive approach, meaning that the theory is developed from the data rather than being imposed on it. Second one, grounded theory is a systematic methodology that has been largely applied to qualitative research. It involves the construction of hypotheses and theories through the collecting and analysis of their data. Grounded theory is a general research methodology, way of thinking and conceptualizing the data. It is used in studies of diverse populations from areas like remarriages, after diverse and professional socialization. I'm going to talk about one or two case studies. If you look at some of the features of grounded theory, it is the first one, first and foremost thing is inductive. As a part of qualitative research, you are going to observe the data. Based on that, you're going to come up with patterns and you're going to develop the theory. Emergence. What are the theory that you're going to develop? It is coming from the data that you collected. It is completely based on holistic and contextual. Instead of relying on certain variables, you're trying to look at the context, situational factors, historical factors, social factors, environmental factors. And as you want to develop the theory, you need to have rich data. You need to discover the knowledge thoroughly. So it is going to have holistic understanding and iteration. As you are going to collect the data based on theoretical sampling, we have concept called theoretical sampling, or I can say that data saturation. When it comes to grounded theory, if you look at the data collection process, data analysis and data collection will go simultaneously. Let me put it. Data collection and data analysis will go simultaneously. It means, as a researcher, you are collecting data. After collecting data from 5 people, if you realize that you're not able to get any more new insights from your respondents, means you have reached certain saturation. You're not able to get any kind of new findings. You stop collecting data. How you're going to stop the collect the data? As you're feeling, you're not getting new insights. How you're feeling it? Because as a part of qualitative research, it is always possible that uh, most of your respondents may not feel comfortable if you start taking notes, if you start recording audios, videos, until unless they are very exposed to the outside world, right? That too, if you're talking about their problems, their personal issues, they don't feel comfortable, or even if they agree that you can able to record, you can record it, you can shoot, take the video, but you won't able to get actual data from them. They don't disclose the information, right? So as you want to get the rich data, you start understanding and you start taking certain notes. Even notes is very difficult. As soon as you come from the field work, you start maintaining some diaries, field notes. You start maintaining some journals. You start writing certain memos. So what happens is you don't miss any data because every finding is very important. Now, once we are putting everything on paper, once we have some kind of preliminary understanding about your data, you'll come to know that what kind of findings you got it in the first interview, second interview, or over the period of time, 5 to 6 interviews. Am I able to get new findings? Am I able to get new insights? No. So let me go to new research. Let me raise new question, or let me go to the new research. Uh, Let me find out new research questions based on your preliminary understanding of it. I will explain the entire process with the help of small research work. Now, iteration means as you are going to collect the data in different phases, you are going to develop the codes and you start looking it again. You are going to read codes, how these particular codes are connected. You're going back forward, backward, and you start connecting the theory, connecting the codes. Accordingly, you're going to develop the themes out of the research work. Then only you can able to develop the theory. Reflexive, as a qualitative researcher, you try to overcome your bias. You are going to look at how I'm collecting data, what kind of data I'm collecting, whether I'm having any kind of influence. So you're also going to interact with your peer group members. You're also going to interact with your experts to evaluate yourself. Am I having any kind of bias as a part of my data collection, as a part of my data analysis? So I'll be talking more about reflexive at the time of validity and reliability. Okay. Now, there is a very interesting article. Title of article itself: Grounded Theory: A Step-by-Step Methodological Issues in Practice. Here, the researcher conducted research. The researcher wanted to understand how aging process is going to uh, what now as we are reaching above 40, 50 years, as we are becoming old, how it is having impact on identity, how it is having, what kind of impact we are having on identity, what kind of life we are having it in terms of professional life, in terms of personal life. I'm repeating again. The researcher wanted to understand as you're becoming old, as an executive, as an employee, what it means if you are near 30s, sorry, near 40s or above. So the researcher had a very interesting question. The researcher wanted to collect the data, but when the researcher started collecting data. The first question was, the first question the researcher having, how does aging process affect the personal and professional areas of Brazilian female executives? When the researcher started collecting data for the first time, the research objective or the research question was, how does the aging process affect the personal and professional areas of female executives, that is Brazilian executives? The researcher collected data from 15 people. Okay, those are working as executives. But the research, what are the codes? What are the results the researcher got it? The researcher couldn't find there is any difference between a personal and professional. But another finding was that the people those are above 40, the people those are above 40, they started sharing some new insights from it. So after collecting data from 15 people, the researcher understood that the people those are above 40, I think they are the right person can share something more about how they can able to manage professional and personal life when they reach 40 years. Okay, because in this particular stage, the researcher didn't keep much age as a factor, and they said that there's no difference between personal and professional life. But based on the first stage of the findings, based on the preliminary analysis of the stage one, the researcher understood that the people those are above 40, there is something happening in their life. As well, I don't know how many of you belongs to above 35, above 40 years age group. One can easily understand there are two things when it comes to personal life. You have to take care of your children's. At the same time, you also take care of your parents. Means on your shoulders, you are carrying two important activities, two important responsibilities. You have to justify as a man, as a woman, right? Irrespective of your gender, we all have to take care of our two sides. Now, at the same time, when it comes to the professional life, if you are above 40, 50 years, we also need to compete with young generations, or at least current generation. We also need to adopt what all happening with the advancement of technology, what all happening with the happening in the changes and happening in the external factors, right? Maybe networking skills, maybe adopting new technology, uh, culture of the young generation, right? There are so many things. I don't want to go in detail I don't, about them, but study is very important. Maybe you can go through the findings of the study sometime. So the researcher came with the question: how does the aging affect the Brazilian females executives' life after 40 or at the age of 40? That was the main question here. Okay. Now the researcher collected data from 15 people. Then in the third stage, the researcher not only collected data from the people, those are above 40 or near to 50. The researcher also collected data from the people, those who decided to stop working. Means either because they're not able to compete with the current generation, or they may be decided to uh, uh, they wanted to start extra business. They want to come up their own business activities as well. So there are different stages: stage one, stage two, stage three, stage four. After collecting data from all these three stages, the data was collected, and there are in each phase, as you are conducting preliminary data analysis, you started generating the codes, and you started comparing in phase one what kind of codes we got it, phase two what kind of codes we got it. Means at the time of reading your data or interview transcript or data transcriptions, you started connecting these particular transcriptions. Are the significant findings, are they connected with the research question or not? How closely they are connected with your significant findings? Point number one: how significant they are, how frequently they are. They can be unique, there can be repetition also. So we started reading and connecting with phase one, phase two, phase three, phase four, right? Now, this can be happen only with the help of grounded theory data analysis. It is something unique. As a part of grounded theory, we have four phases of the data analysis. First one is open coding. Just like a thematic analysis, just like phenomenological analysis, as I mentioned earlier, you start familiarizing yourself with the data. You start coming with the significant findings, means you start generating the codes. Once you generate the codes, you start connecting the codes. That is nothing but Excel coding, means you start organizing the codes like this: phase one, phase two, phase three, and you start connecting the codes. That is right here. As you start connecting the codes, categories are going to emerge. As I mentioned earlier, we have different kind of data analysis, but overall, irrespective of the terminologies, the steps that we carry, the entire process more or less is going to be the same. Understand the transcript, identify the significant findings, generate the codes, connect the codes, develop the categories and connect the categories into themes. And you're also going to revisit the existing literature with the findings, or maybe based on the theory that you have connected in the tops, you're going to develop the theory out of. Let's take an example. After conducting phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, after understanding the codes phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, this particular researcher was able to come up with 6 categories. Under each category, we have subcategories, right? For example, when I'm talking about professional development, professional background depends on how we are going to build up the career, what no barriers you're facing it, what as a result of it, what are the consequences we have it. Means as a part of grounded theory, you are going to use how it is happening. As a result, what is the effect of it, or what are the causes of it, or what are the consequences of it. If you can able to connect by using how, what, effect, cause and effect relationship, you are going to develop the theory as a out of this particular research work. Let me give you briefly before going to the next methodology. Professional category. You as a part of professional category, you're trying to construct a career. Okay, you're trying to construct a career, and if you're not able to construct the career properly, you are going to face certain barriers. As a result, what are the barriers that you're going to face, and what are the consequences that are going to have it? That is going to have it. Daily life of executive depends on what kind of personal demands you have it, what kind of professional demands you are having. If you're able to fulfill professional demands and personal demands, your life will be fruitful. Means you'll be more happy. You may be you hang self-esteem, very good self-esteem. If you're not able to fulfill your professional demands, neither professional demands nor personal demands, you'll feel that it is like a death. What kind of death? It may be physical death, means if you're not able to adopt the current advancement of technologies, it may be AI, it may be technology. If you feel you're lagging behind among your colleagues within your organization, there's going to have some kind of you have to put a lot of hard work. Most of the time we all put hard work, but we also need to put sometimes smart, how smartly you're working also. It will come with experience. It will come with following some role models or following some one of our colleagues. So it can be physical death, it can be professional death, it can be social death as well, right? If you're able to fulfill professional demands and personal demands, and you're going to redefine your career, right? It's like as you're going to redefine your career, it is like rebirth. You're able to meet expectations, and I hope you can able to understand how the researcher try to connect it, how to try to develop the concepts or categories here. Okay, so this is all about grounded theory research. In addition to this particular topic, there is one more topic. If somebody interested to understand the psychosocial experiences of survivors with breast cancer, this particular research was done by my friend from Tata Institute of Science. You may find this particular thesis in TIS Mumbai as a part of Department of Social Work. Very interesting. And you can able to understand how she developed the theory out of her research work. Next one, we are going with the case study. What is case study is all about it? Case study investigates a contemporary phenomena within its real life context, especially when the boundaries between phenomena and context are not clearly evident. When you want to explore particular phenomena in a real life context point of view, it can be one case, it can be two cases, it can be multiple cases, it can be life of individual people, it can be as an institution, it can be part of a particular institution also, or particular context also, particular phenomena also. You try to explore the particular phenomena. Case study is an in-depth examination of a specific individual. It can be individual, it can be group. As I mentioned, it can be phenomena as well. It involves collecting and analyzing data from various sources. Means, in addition to collecting the data from the individuals, You may also require to collect the data from uh, secondary databases. For example, if I want to collect data from the social entrepreneurs, how they're able to get the success, how they're able to overcome their failures, it is going to be good, very interesting, motivational case study. But in addition to understanding their from their lifestyle, I can also refer to their annual reports, what kind of impact they are creating on it. I can also collect the data from their beneficiaries. I can also collect the data from various their funders, their investors, right? So you're trying to get a holistic understanding about a particular context here. It involves collecting and analyzing data from various sources, such as interviews. As a part of primary data, one can use interviews, observations, documents, artifacts to understand the case in detail. When you want to conduct the interview, case studies, whenever you want to develop the theory, whenever you want to develop the hypothesis or test the generate the theory, that is one case. Whenever you want to understand the complex phenomena, so in that case also one can use case study as a method. If you want to come up some insights, if you want to bring some incremental changes in the policy, or if you want to bring certain all of a sudden if you want to come up with some new policy, so one has to evaluate the existing policy, one has to conduct the monitoring and evaluation of study. So in that case also one can use to case study. Most of the project managers, management schools, policymakers, they use case study as one of the important approach as a part of qualitative research work. Application of case study research, like as I mentioned it, develop the theory, evaluating the programs, exploring the complex phenomena, the time one can able to use case study research work. Let me give you a small example here. There is a title of the study is Social Entrepreneurship for Scalable Solutions Addressing Sustainable Development Goals at Bottom of the Pyramid in India. We all know that from the 2015 onwards, we started talking about sustainable development goals. As we are not able to fulfill many of the million development goals, we started looking for some innovative solutions, especially the people, those are good at innovations, those are good at balancing both economical value as well as social value. They are nothing but social entrepreneurs. Now, how as a social entrepreneurs they're trying to address the social problems of the people, those are living at bottom of the pyramid. At the same time, how they're able to contribute towards achieving sustainable development goals. So this was the main objective of the this particular scholars we have. There are three scholars. Now, in order to study the social innovations, at the same time, how they're achieving sustainable development goals, the researchers collected data from three social enterprises. One is Let's Recycle. It is also known as NIPRA. It is from Ahmedabad. Sarvajal, I'm sure many of you might be knowing Pyramidal Foundation, Pyramidal Water. They also have branch in Ahmedabad, Gujarat, and different parts of India. GARV toilets. So they have taken different kind of problems. I don't want to go in detail about each case, but overall, if you look at it, Let's Recycle. They are not just working on uh, rewasting, recycling. They're also providing livelihood opportunities for the rack pickers. I'm sure in our day-to-day life, we are seeing so many rack pickers, right? On average, a rack pickers used to bend 800 to 1200 times in a day. But at the end of the day, they may earn 50 rupees or maybe 200 rupees. Luckily, if they get something, they may get 500 rupees also. But there is no continuity. At the same time, they are collecting various products, waste, hazardous waste, wet waste, dry waste. They don't use any precautions. They don't have any kind of equipments for collecting the data. Means their life is at miserable condition. First thing is there is no guarantee how much income they are going to get it. Second thing, health is they are living at risk. Risk level is very high. Okay. Now what let's cycle did, I'll explain only one case study so that you'll understand what is the innovation here, how they're able to contribute to sustainable development goals. Now let's recycle what they're doing is that they are taking rack pickers as an employee of their organizations. Means they are providing They're giving them as formal organization, means they're going to get the dress, uniform. They're going to train how to collect the waste, and what are they are also going to get some tools to collect the waste, okay, to segregate the waste. It's a big, very interesting case study. Maybe you can find it sometime. Now, what I want to say that they completely transform the way rag pickers are living from unorganized to formal. I'm not saying that it is a government job, but at the same time, you can able to see that they have something guaranteed income is there. They have something. Their lifestyle is changed. Now they're no more at good risk. I'm talking about the rag pickers. Those are working with let's recycle. Okay, with the help of the let's recycle, even these particular rag pickers are getting some ID cards like address proof. As a result, they're able to get social welfare schemes like, as many of you might be knowing it, ration card. We have a very public distribution system. We have it, right? Under that, you can get so many schemes like food grains. You can get it. Now they're able to send their children to school as well. So just you can imagine what kind of impact they're able to create it. Waste generation is one, less recycling, reusing one. On the other hand, they are also able to work with the rack because they're able to bring some change in their life. Now, that kind of people are creating impact. How I can report it, right? So this particular researcher used case study as the method. Now, when it comes to the case study, we have there are different types of analysis here. I brought a couple of analysis. One method of doing is within case study and cross case study. For the first time, what you're doing, you're going to have brief profile of each case. You're going to have brief profile of each case. What is particular enterprise all about it? Who are the founders? When they started it? What are the motivational factors influenced? What kind of briefly profile of it? Second one, cross case analysis. You're going to compare the findings of each case. You try to compare the each case and you start coming with certain themes. You're going to generate the theory out of the research work. Maybe sometime on third day, I'm going to show you one article. Same article, I'm going to show you how they have done, how they analyzed it before going for hands-on practice. Triangulation, I'll talk about it as a part of validity and reliability after some period of time. Okay. Ethnographic research. Ethnography is a qualitative research method that involves immersing oneself in a particular community or organization to observe their behavior and interactions up close. It is like becoming a part of the group. You are studying to understand their culture, conventions, and social dynamics from their perspective. As an ethnographer, if you are studying a particular tribe in Amazon, might live with them for several months. Now, what happens is whenever you're collecting data as a part of your research, you know, sometimes you might be conducting in-depth interviews. If you're going more in depth, you may go for 5 sittings. Instead of going for one interview in one sitting, you may go for 2 sittings, 3 sittings. Like it may take 5 hours, 6 hours, or 3, 4 days also. But it is limited as a part of in-depth interview. If you're conducting focus group discussion, you might be having 5 to 12 people or around 10 people, whatever it is. You may go for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. You may have multiple focus group discussions. But when it comes to the ethnography, as a researcher, you're going to live with this particular community. If you are talking about tribal communities, for example, uh, I'm always refer to my friend Dr. Kailash Das Shinde. Kailash Das Shinde. He was my colleague in Tata Institute of Social Science as a PhD colleague. He was doing research on begging community. He was doing research on begging community. How, as a beggar, they are upbringing the children's in their own generation to generation. How to go for begging? What is the life of a beggar? No, he spent nearly 8 months in the field, sleeping with them, spending time with them, understanding the culture. Because if I decide that every day I'll come half an hour, I'll understand what you're doing it won't serve your purpose. If I feel that every Saturday I'll come because of my holiday, that also won't serve the purpose. If you can able to spend some days, you can able to actually understand what their culture is all about it. If somebody says that I'm good at explaining everything, and if that person says that within 1 hour, this is all my culture, that won't serve the purpose of ethnographic research, right? Uh, we have, as a part of social work at my campus, Gujarat National University, we went with the students to understand the denotified tribal cultures in Banaskata district. Though we want to understand the tribal culture, but we are not able to spend, months, years. We got hardly 3 days as a because as a faculty, as a educators, we can't spend much time with students. Why we went to that particular place? There are different types of denotified tribals who are considered as a criminal tribes, who are considered as born as criminals. These particular tribal people are not listed in scheduled tribe list, neither listed under scheduled tribes nor listed under scheduled caste. As a result, they're not able to get any kind of support from the government of India. They are denotified. This is a long history, but very interesting story. But we went to what particular community. The main occupation of that particular community was prostitution. Means it is a responsibility of the husband, brother, father-in-law, I can say the male member, to get the clients for the wives, daughters, or daughter-in-laws. Okay. If somebody really wanted to understand what is the culture, we have to conduct ethnography research. But as we don't have time, as academicians, we have certain limitations. It was like exposure visit. Now we went to interact with various village heads. We went to interact with some of the members of the village. But that won't serve the purpose of conducting ethnographic research, right? If you really want to understand, there are so many anthropologists, there are so many sociologists, or in general, even there are so many social scientists who spend their entire lifetime. Even I'm not able to recollect, sorry to say this. There are some of the anthropologists who settled with the tribals, who got married with them, they learned the language, and they're able to come out of good knowledge as a part of the research work. So one can apply ethnography as a part of understanding the culture. One can also conduct the ethnography as a part of educational curriculum. For example, I want to understand how, as a social entrepreneur teacher, what kind of pedagogy they have it, what kind of teaching curriculum they have it, how they're able to ensure that students are taking entrepreneurship as their career option. For that, just asking questions with the incubation manager, head of the university, you may get something, but you may not be able to understand what kind of teaching pedagogy they are following it. Unless I go and sit in their class for a couple of classes, what kind of business plans they have it, what kind of competition they have it, right? You can't get a complete picture of ethnography research. So one can also conduct, uh, sorry, if you want to understand indigenous practices, what kind of indigenous practices still tribals are following out, what kind of health seeking behavior they have it, even as a part of the management. If you want to understand the leadership styles, work culture, as a part of business, as a part of marketing, we can able to conduct ethnographic research work. Okay. When it comes to the data collection methods, it is required in-depth observation. As I mentioned it again, we have participant observation, non-participant observations. Means, as a researcher, you are going to participate. You are going to inform that you are going to disclose what is as a researcher is all about it, and you are also going to take part in their activities. As a non-participant observation, you're going to observe from the field somewhere, and based on your understanding, you're going to come up with that. Interviews, data collections, and as a part of data collection, in addition to responding, interacting with the community members or your respondents, you'll also collect the data, you'll also collect the objects, what kind of products they're using on it, what is the lifestyle of it, what are the cultural practices. As a part of this particular ritual practice or cultural practice, what kind of objects they have it. You can also take images. You can also take the photos of images and various objects. How from generation to generation they're carrying. How they're able to share their knowledge from one generation to another generation by using their own products, right? So it is going to have some holistic understanding of particular cultures or particular behaviors of the communities. So in that cases, one can use ethnography as a research method. When it comes to data analysis, Uh, these are some of the tips. Okay, I can't justify the entire for every method. Explain how one can go for data analysis, but with my limited exposure by looking at various research articles, I'm able to come up with certain important points as a researcher one can consider while analyzing the data, right? At the time of data collection, data analysis, like what are people doing at the time of data collection? What are people doing? What they're trying to accomplish? As an observer, how exactly do they do this? What specific means or strategies they use? How do members talk about it, characterize it, understand what is going on? What assumptions are they making it? What do I see going on here? What did I learn from these notes? How to get from data to analysis? When you talk about data analysis, you're trying to immerse yourself in the data, whatever the data that you got it. You start familiarizing yourself with the data that you collected it, like trying to understand the context wise, entire the research that you have done it. Once you understand the data, you start organizing your data. Means you start structuring the data, you start coding the data, you start generating the codes. Once you start generating the codes, you start looking for themes based on the description that you got it. You start connecting the themes. You start developing the themes out of the research work. Once you develop the themes, you start connecting the themes and you start interpretation. Once you complete your interpretation, you start looking at is there any kind of bias?
Hello.
Start looking for reflexivity. Okay. So you start connecting what you did it, how you did it. You start checking yourself what kind of analysis that you're carrying out. Okay. So there is small research work. Name of the study is Trafficking in a Bodily Perfection, examining the late modern steroid marketplace. As you all know that everybody wanted to have good body. Just they want to maintain good image, whether it's girls, whether it's boys, whether it's men, women, right? They want to be attractive. They want looks very good. It may be for the outside perspective people, or maybe their own self. They want to be perfection in terms of their body, how they're looking at. But depends on the genes, depends on their health, depends on the whatever they have it. Everybody may not have perfect body. Somebody can argue with me what is perfect body, what is normal body, and all. I'm not going to detail. As there is a lot of media, as we are influenced by the media, right? So we'll think I'm not supporting the role models, the media, social media, what they're portraying it. In general, I'm talking about it. What general youth are all since. In general, as a man, as a woman, you think about perfect body, right? Now, as they're not able to get into perfect image, they start looking for some steroids. But in every country, it is not considered as illegal, and every steroid is not legally available, right? So you can able to see a lot of illegal market, which is selling this kind of steroids different places. But how to get it openly? It is not possible to get it. So this particular scholar, what he did, he conducted ethnography as a method to identify the illegal market. He joined 60 kilometers radius, all the training centers, all the gyms. He's just joining and spending 1 week time, talking with every person who is coming to build their body, talking with every body trainer, every body builder, telling that I'm looking very thin, I'm feeling very bad, I'm not able to convince my opposite sex. I just want to have good image about myself. Kindly help me how to get this kind of products, this kind of steroids. He's not telling, of course, ethically he did wrong. That he's not telling that he's conducting research on it. I'm not accepting that. But what he did it, I just want to improve myself. I just want to be look very good in front of my girls or females, whatever it is. Means he's trying to convince the people to get the source. So he conducted around 18 months research. Sorry, 15 months as ethnographic research. 15 months time to explore different people to get the source from where they're getting the source. 15 months is not easy, right? 15 months is not short term. He has conducted ethnographic research and he was able to find it out. So this is one interesting study. Just due to lack of time, I'm not going to detail about it. But one of the best ethnographic research, I can say that even as a part of mixed method research, you can consider this is a good reference for yourself. Okay. May I get 2 minutes time? Just I'll take water and come. Just 2 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your patience. So we are coming to the next part, sampling techniques. I'll just give the overview of what are the sampling techniques one can use it. It is very clear that as a researcher, we cannot collect the data from the entire population that you want to study it. So we are going to collect the data from small sample, and based on your data that you collected from the small sample, you start giving inferences to the rest of the population. So that is the main objective of the sampling method that you are conducting it. Due to limitations in terms of time period, in terms of resources, in terms of energy, we can't collect the data. It is not easy. Even government of India or any government, when it comes to conducting population census, they are collecting data for every 10 years once, right? And it is a huge machinery they are using, huge mechanism they are following on it. So when it comes to as an individual person, how we can collect the data from the entire population, whatever the topic that they choose it is not easy. But when it comes to sampling technique, we have different kind of sampling techniques we have it. First one is probability sampling technique. Second one is non-probability sampling technique. Probability sampling technique means each and every respondent is having equal chance of being selected. It means if there are 53 participants in this particular group, I'm saying that I'm going to take 10 participants and I want to work with each one of you for writing one of the research paper in the area of qualitative research work. Who are that 10 people? Means every person among the 53 people having equal chance of being selected, right? Whereas when it comes to non-probability sampling, every respondent is not having equal chance of being selected. Means you're going to choose certain criteria to select your respondent. Though we are not going to talk about probability sampling, but I want to spend some time on non-probability sampling technique. In general, if you observe it, most of the quantitative researchers, they'll use probability sampling technique. And similarly, qualitative researchers, they'll go for non-probability sampling technique. However, you may also find some studies just because they're not having proper directory about particular population, they not have proper sample frame. There is a possibility that even quantitative researchers, they may use non-probability sampling technique sometime. Okay. Now coming to the non-probability sampling technique. First one we have convenience sampling. As you can see on this particular slide, the the person who is standing in the balcony seeing some person who is passing in her street and started asking, "Hey, do you believe in that penalty?" Means the person who is very convenient to her, who is very accessible to her, she can able to reach that particular person, and she started asking about, "Hey, do you believe that penalty?" Right? Means someone who is very convenient, very accessible to you, he started asking about particular phenomena, about particular topic. Like, for example, you can also conduct research on young adolescents' beliefs concerning menstruation. You just want to understand, as a student, you want to talk with other peer group members. As a faculty, you can talk with other faculty members who are accessible to you, who are convenient to you, available to you, with whom you are comfortable also, right? So based on certain criteria, you are going to use convenience sampling as a part of your technique. Next one, we have purposive sampling. As you can see on this particular slide, purposefully you're selecting some respondent as a part of your study. Let's take an example. University teaches attitudes and experiences of teaching students with visually impaired students. I'm sure there are so many professors, faculty members in this particular workshop. You might have seen one or two students with the disabilities in your classroom, right? Thing is, persons with visual impaired, it is a invisible disability. Until unless if person is carrying some stick, a cane, he can't understand that this particular person is having some visual impaired. Even in that case, hearing impaired, speech impaired, these are all invisible disabilities. Until unless students come and disclose, dear ma'am, dear sir, I have a problem with hearing impairment or visual impairment. Kindly take into note while discussing any concept or while writing on notice board or blackboard, whiteboard, whatever it is, right? Now, I just want to understand experiences of teachers and what kind of attitudes they have about visually impaired students. I can only collect the data from the teachers, those have some kind of experience. There are so many teachers who have it, but I can't collect data from everyone. For example, if madam won't take in mind, madam, Vijay ma'am is teaching, okay? Without knowing her whether she's having students with visual impaired in her classroom, I can't get rich data, right? As a quality researcher, I want to understand the experiences of teachers, how they're handling, what they're thinking about, how these particular students are actually participating or not, whether these particular students having any kind of stigma. So what kind of so in that case, I'm going to use purposive sampling technique. I request the participants, please check your mic 10 to 15 minutes. I'll end the session. Please. So in that case, we are going to use purposive sampling as one of the important technique. Because here you're using criteria, inclusion, exclusion criteria. If you go back to our phenomenological study, the researcher included she want to collect the data from the parents who are having children with autism. At the same time, the children, those are the parents, those are trying to get intervention services, special education services. Another criteria, the participants, the parents who are comfortable in English. Another inclusion criteria, the parents who are having children less than 5 years. Another criteria, the parents who are ready to share 10 photographs. So depends on the context wise, depends on the requirement. You are going to keep certain inclusion, exclusion criteria. That's why it is also known as purposive sampling or judgmental sampling. Next one, we have quota sampling. Many times we always used to get confused with quota sampling with stratified sampling, right? There's a possibility. Here, when it comes to quota sampling, we should know the total population or at least approximate population. Based on that, you're going to fix certain quota. For example, I want to understand the monitoring the psychosocial impact of COVID-19 pandemic in the general population. We all have witnessed, irrespective of our age group, irrespective of our gender, irrespective of our socio-economic background, irrespective of the region, we all experienced social problems, psychological problems, economical problems, health related issues during the COVID 19, right? As a researcher, I want to know age wise what kind of differences they had, what kind of problem they have it, right? As you, so if I know the total population, then only I can fix certain quota. Okay, there are this much population. I'm going to collect the data from 11 people. Then convenient sampling, you are going to choose it. There's nothing like random choosing. Just fixing the quota only. Fixing the quota is first priority, first one. After fixing the quota, you can take any respondent as your choice. Okay. This is called quota sampling technique. Last one, snowball sampling. Whenever you want to conduct research, when it comes to chain smoking habits, when it comes to sexual orientation, when it comes to uh, particular population where you can't able to find directory, sample frame, in that cases, one can use snowball sampling. As you can see on this particular slide, thanks to the question pro, and there are other scholars from where I brought this particular slide. We are collecting data from the one of the respondent, and this particular respondent is going to give reference about the other respondents, right? Now, if I want to understand chain smoking hobbies among adolescents or among college students, no student come and tell that I have chain smoking hobbies. Right? So, what you're going to do, you're going to sit in Galla nearby campus and start observing it. How many people are coming, what they're coming. Regularly start observing. You start connecting the rapport with them, building the rapport. And you also, if you have hobby, you also start taking smoking it or drinking and start building your connection with them. And you'll also ask, do you know any other person who is coming from your college, your school, right? So you start getting references from one respondent to another respondents. This is called snowball sampling technique. You have it. When it comes to the sampling size, there is no fixed method saying that for grounded theory this much, for phenomenology this much, ethnography this much. It's all about your purpose of the study. It's all about the insights that you're getting from the time to time. As I mentioned earlier, there is concept called data saturation. As you start seeing, you're not getting new insights. You stop collecting the data. You start going to the new respondents in that case with a new research question, especially when it comes to grounded theory point of view. It is tentative. This is a not fixed number. When it comes to Criswell, as you all know that Criswell is a very popular scholar in the area of quantitative and qualitative research work, especially. He has given some of the important figures based on his experience. Okay, I have referred one study when I was talking about grounded theory. In that particular study, researcher collected data from 60 people, like 15, 15, 15, 15, 4 stages, minimum 20 to 30 plus. So there is no fixed amount. There is nothing like I can decide and tell you. This all depends on as a researcher, what was the purpose, what kind of data that you are getting it, what kind of insights are coming up, whether are you able to reach saturation or not. That decides what would be your appropriate sample. But compare with any other methodology, if you look at it, not only as per the Criswell, in general also, the people those are conducting ethnography, their sample size is huge. Means you're going to interact with the, for example, when I'm talking about denotified tribals, we have interacted with the village heads, we have interacted with the participants, we have interacted with the parents, we have interacted with the prostitutes, village community people. We also interacted with the police, right? Because you can't enter in that particular village without the support of the police. So it depends on the context of your research work, research setting of your research setting depends. Who are all people you are going to interact, right? Phenomenology, it is considered compared to any other method with my limited knowledge. It is the phenomenology is the method where we have less sample, even 4, 5, 10, because as you're going more in-depth understanding of it, we can able to do that part. Case study can say that one case study you can write PhD thesis also. There are case studies, 2 studies, 3 studies, 10 studies also you can do that. Okay. So this is all about sampling size, qualitative data collection and data analysis. When it comes to data collection methods, uh, I don't think I'm going to add anything new because while referring to various research papers, while reviewing to them, I discussed many of the data collection methods. But during question and answers, if you have any questions, I'll refer to that. We can able to see that something new, diaries and journals, document analysis. So these are all we have discussed, right? Next one is qualitative data analysis part. I think let me focus group discussion. I'll give you overview. We have still time. When it comes to the interview, if you want to conduct interview as a method, we have 3 types of tools one can use it, like structured interview, semi-structured interview, unstructured interview schedule. Interview means there are two people. One is interviewer, second one is interviewee. Interviewee means as an interviewer, you are going to interact with the interviewee. You can conduct 3 types of interviews. I mean, you can use 3 types of schedules. Structured interview schedule means you have designed your tool, you are going to collect the data as it is. It can, okay. Whereas when it comes to semi structured interview schedule, you are able to design based on the existing literature. And on this part, based on your probing skills, you may add certain questions as well. It includes both open-ended as well as closed-ended questions. Whereas when it comes to unstructured interview schedule, you can also call it as in-depth interviews. You have certain questions based on your research objectives and research questions. Some kind of check, some kind of interview guide you have it. But it is going for 2 days or 5 settings, 10 settings also. This all depends on how you are going to probe your respondent. It all depends on how your respondent is actively able to disclose. How, as a researcher, you're able to build a rapport. What kind of environment that you're able to create. If your respondent able to feel that as a researcher, you're not judging. As a researcher, you're listening. You're paying some kind of empathetic understanding. Instead of, if you're able to maintain some eye contact means don't look at continuously. As you can understand how you can do maintain eye contact, they should not feel uncomfortable, right? And non-judgmental behavior. See, you're asking about my problems for your research work. If I'm sharing something, you should not laugh, you should not behave something like you are a superior, or you should not feel that I'm subordinate to you, right? You are collecting data, I'm supporting you, right? It's not that you're collecting data, you're doing something for me. So as a researcher, how you're behaving, what kind of rapport that you're going to build, that is very important. One point here, I don't know how much new knowledge I'm adding to many of the people. I believe there are some young research scholars. There are some people, those are new to the research are at the age of early career. So that is the reason I'm going a little bit with examples in that case. Next, coming to the focus group discussion. When it comes to the conducting focus group discussion, it is always better to have one more person with you as an observer. As a researcher, you are going to interact with your respondents, your participants. You are going to ensure that as a part of your group, are they able to participate equally? Are there any inequality between the groups? Like somebody was able to open, somebody is not able to open because of socio-economic problems, right? What kind of diverse group you have it? If you have diverse group, you have to build a gap. You have to bridge the gap among all the participants. Every time only one respondent is sharing for every question, one respondent is answering means it is biased. Means you're not getting holistic understanding from different type of respondents, or from all the respondents, you're not able to get it. Second important point here is that if you have observer, your observer is going to observe how participants are taking part. So he's going to build some rapport. He's going to come up with some kind of connecting the people, because you're focusing on asking questions, interacting with the people. You may not able to observe every respondent of your work. You may not able to observe how to record it, how to take note of it, right? So it's better to have someone along with you as a part of focus group discussion. Now, when it comes to the focus group discussion, in general, we are going to have three parts as a part of your tool. We will call them as a focus group guide. First part of your focus group guide is going to be like introductory part. You are going to talk about what is the research is all about it, why you are conducting research, what is the purpose of it, and how your respondents are going to contribute it, how it is going to affect the overall as a phenomena, as a knowledge contribution, filling the knowledge, how they can take the responsibility in terms of sharing their knowledge, right? And you're also going to talk about it, how this particular process is going to take place. And if there are any practices like note taking, recording, audios, you can also get the consent forms, right? Everything. In the second phase, you're going to open up. You'll ask questions based on the your objectives or questions. Third phase, you're going to come up with the consensus. You start talking about what is your understanding about it, what are the major findings you got it, like some kind of validation, some kind of filling the gap before ending the focus group discussion. So that's how we'll do it. When it comes to the observation, one can use it observation as a part of quantitative research as well as qualitative research. We have already mentioned about as a part of qualitative research what you can do with the tribals, with the denotified tribals, or with the begging community. But when it comes to quantitative research, if you want to understand the Anganwadi centers, how they're working on it, as you all know that We have Integrated Child Development Scheme, ICDS scheme, one of the best scheme and oldest scheme, where we are able to reach huge number of stakeholders like pregnant women, children's, those are at the stage of early childhood care, lactating mothers, elderly people, right? There are so many stakeholders we have. Now, as a part of Anganwadi centers, what kind of food menu they have it, what kind of infrastructure they have it. So LCDS has some checklist. So I can take this particular checklist, I can observe it. So in that case, one can use observation checklist as a part of it, in addition to qualitative research work. Document analysis, as you all know that as a part of autoethnography, autobiography, or narrative analysis. I'm sure many of you might have watched MS Dhoni movie, right? MS Dhoni movie, Sachin Tendulkar. We have so many leaders, a life story of so many leaders, right? In addition to understanding their life story, in addition to understanding, collecting data from them, in addition to spending time with them, you can also see various documents, maybe reports published by various scholars, news media, right? So that is can be done. Ethnography fieldwork, that is we discussed. Diaries we have discussed. Right. Coming to the qualitative data analysis part, we have thematic analysis, content analysis, narrative analysis, discourse analysis, grounded theory analysis. As I mentioned it, uh, irrespective of the type of the method that we have it, almost if you look at the process of data analysis and report writing, more or less same. We have different terminologies, different way of doing it, but whole context, whole way of doing, you'll feel that all more or less same. Let me show you two types of data analysis that we are going to do as a part of our third day: thematic analysis, content analysis. In addition, on third day, we're also going to do sentiment analysis. Next one, we're also going to do it relationship network, uh, network analysis. But today, as a part of theoretical part, I'll talk about thematic analysis and content analysis. Okay. By looking at this particular slide, I'm sure what all I have discussed as a part of phenomenological study, as a part of grounded theory, it all more or less same, right? Even case study we had discussed about it. Even as a part of ethnography, we had discussed about it. If you look at the thematic analysis, you start understanding the transcription, the data that are collected. Means you start familiarizing yourself. You can't familiarize yourself just reading one time. Read again, understand what it is all about it. Okay, immersing in the content and noting initial ideas means noting initial findings. Once you are able to find initial significant findings, you start generating the codes. Generating codes means systematically coding the data relevant to research questions. You can't simply code saying that this is very important finding, this is very important finding. What were the research questions? What were research objectives? Are these particular codes are connected directly or indirectly with your research objectives or not? As a part of qualitative interview, you may get a lot of data, but as a researcher, you should be in a position to understand how much at the time of data collection you can't avoid, because respondents keep on say adding, and he's coming instead of coming directly to nose, he's coming entire surrounding face. You have to accept it because you have to listen to him. You don't have option. So you may get 10 instead of 10%, you may get 40% of the data. But that 30% data of data, which is irrelevant, you are going to look at it how we can exclude that particular data, how we can overcome that particular data, how relevant this particular data to your research questions, research objectives, whether it's directly or indirectly. Then once you generate it, you start connecting the particular codes into groups. We are going to have entire thematic analysis step by step on day 3. Okay. You're going to develop the codes, and then you're going to come up the reviews. You start refining the names, and you start writing report writing as a part of your research work. This is all about thematic analysis process. These particular steps were given by Brown and Clarke. Brown and Clarke, very renowned scholar in the area of qualitative research. He has defined what is thematic analysis. There are 6 steps in writing thematic analysis research report. These particular stages were given by Brown and Clarke scholar. Next one, we have content analysis. You are going to read the entire, just like a previous one, you are going to read and you start identifying relevant data. And as you are going to identify relevant data, you start developing the codes based on frequent repeated codes. And you start identifying that particular codes based on theory. For example, if you're referring to hypothetically, I'm sure many scholars might be knowing about uh, capability approach. Those are coming from economics or science background, management background. In general, social science, we all know about capability approach. This particular concept was developed by Professor Amartya Sen, and he also developed Human Development Index. Why we are not able to achieve holistic development? If you look at traditional perspectives, they are started saying that we are able to reach develop, we become sorry, we are able to become developed country based on GDP. Based on GDP, we are saying that we are developed country, underdeveloped country. But when it comes to the Professor Amartya Sen, when you talk about Human Development Index, development is not based on GDP. It is based on are they have access to basic healthcare? Are they having access to basic quality of life? Are they having access to education? Means Human Development Index. Based on that, a Human Development Index, we're talking about social, health, life expectancy rate, everything. So we are going to take Human Development Index concept as a coding system. What all coming under health? What all coming under education? What all coming under social aspect? So you start looking your data connecting with the existing framework. That's called content analysis. If you go in deep, we have inductive content analysis, deductive content analysis. For timing, what I want to conclude here is that as a part of content analysis, we have some framework in mind. In that, you use the particular framework to code. Use the particular framework to code. For example, when I talk about capability approach, you're talking about government of India is coming with so many schemes, so many policies. Despite that, many of the people are not able to overcome their poverty. They are not able to break their vicious circle of poverty because though they have resources, they are not able to convert their particular resources into opportunities. Everybody have freedom, everybody have capabilities, but there are people who are some people are able to realize their capabilities, some people are able to realize their freedoms, and they're able to convert their resources into opportunities. This is simple from layman point of view without going detail about the theory. There are some experts, don't mind it if I commit any mistake. What I want to say that as a part of capability approach, we have freedom, we have opportunities, we have capabilities. If something comes to the freedoms, opportunities, or maybe social factors, environmental factors, we will take that particular theory as a framework to code your data. Okay, and you'll come to the analysis part. So this is all about content analysis. One can do that part. Last slide, I can say that no, there is one more concept: reliability, validity. So this is the overview of it. It's not like if you're conducting ethnography, you have to go for thematic analysis. But these are the popular methods done. Those are conducting ethnographers. Mostly they have used thematic analysis. I'm repeating one more statement once again. It's not compulsory that if you're using thematic ethnography, you have to conduct only thematic analysis. This is the most probable, is the most important choice one can make if you're conducting ethnography. You can also use the combination of thematic analysis, content analysis, depends on your stakeholders, depends on your target group members, right? They can do so many aspects. But this is more or less these are the popular repeated studies. Based on that, we got one scholar, he published an article here. Okay, sorry. Last slide. When it comes to addressing research validity and reliability issues in qualitative research, credibility means you're talking about internal validity of your research work. Okay, prolonged engagement in the field. If you're going to spend some good amount of time, you can able to overcome your research biasness, assumptions, or maybe the kind of research that you have done it, you can show that this is what my credibility is all about it. How I can rely on your research findings because I have spent good amount of time. It's not that weekly 1 hour or overall 2 3 hours I spent. I spent good amount of time. Based on that, I'm able to convince. I'm able to justify what kind of findings I got it. Use of peer debriefing means as a researcher, I'm conducting research. I should also recognize that I'm in the process of learning it. There is nothing wrong to discuss your findings with your peer group members as you are going to interact with experts in various conferences as a part of your network. In addition to your supervisor, I'm not saying that you have to share your data with them, but you can discuss, you can present your findings briefly in various conferences. You start understanding, you start getting some kind of feedback, how we are traveling, what kind of data that I collected, was there any misinterpretation, misunderstanding of the data, what you're thinking is correct or not, without any kind of bias or not. Triangulation. The concept of triangulation is going to be repeated a number of times. Triangulation is nothing but whenever you are using more than one data source, whenever you are collecting data from different stakeholders, whenever you are collecting data from different phases of time. So basically, many sources by using different methods. It can be different methods, it can be different stakeholders, it can be different time periods. Basically, you're trying to cross verify your findings. Triangulation means you're trying to cross verify your findings. In that case, this is called triangulation, one of the important research validity strategy here. Member checks, like you're going to check with your members, like debriefing. Time sampling is almost like prolonged engagement in the fieldwork. In different times, we have collected data. There is also time sampling. Provide thick description. You're not giving one line, offline statement as a part of your qualitative research, right? You're going to come up with rich narratives, rich description of your data. It shows the amount of data that you collected. It shows the validity of your research work is all about it. It's not that 100% you have to use purposive sampling. Here, the purpose is that you have collected data from the right candidate. You have collected data from the right respondent who is having good amount of knowledge, who can give the right information for your research questions, research objectives, so that you can able to discover the knowledge that you want to collect it. Right? Dependability means reliability of it. Create an audit trail, starting from preparing your proposal to data analysis. Time to time, you can check whether is there any kind of bias without knowing to me unknowingly whether I have committed any kind of mistakes. We'll come to know only when start discussing with your findings, with your research, with the various experts, even with the layman point of view. I always feel that uh, sometimes, of course, experts always give you right suggestions, right inputs. It's also better to discuss your findings about your research with a layman point of view. As a layman, how I'm able to convince this particular person about my research work. What was my journey of qualitative research? What kind of insights I'm getting it? As a layman, what are the questions they're going to ask? If you can able to convince the layman, your research is going to be best research in the case. Anybody can convince expert, right? But if you can able to convince a layman, that is going to be one of the best research work one can do that part. Code recode strategy, whether it is a phenomenological study, grounded theory, any kind of research, as you're going to get the codes, you can't simply satisfy whatever codes you have generated. If you look at grounded theory, there is concept called iteration. Iteration can be applied in any qualitative research work, not only grounded theory, but mostly in grounded theory we use most frequently. Iteration means you start looking at codes generated in phase one, phase two, phase three, phase four, rereading, recoding again, so that you can able to connect it, right theories, right themes, you can able to develop it. Triangulation, peer examination, practice reflexivity. As I mentioned at the beginning of phenomenological study, as a part of interpretist phenomenologist, it is not 100% easy to overcome your bias, right? But just by practicing reflexivity, means examining yourself, self-examination, examining your findings, discussing with your experts, you can able to overcome your biasness and you can able to confirm that what all you have done it is a really good research work without having any kind of problems in your data, maybe collection, data analysis process. So this is all about qualitative research methods for the day one. Uh, Thank you so much. In case if you are interested further to understand, though it is all about ATLAS.ti. In case if you are interested to learn more about NVIVO, you can take the call uh, to subscribe my YouTube channel. I'll be